Havoc.
News, interviews, and more.
We just reek of Huntsville Havoc hockey.
Welcome to another replay episode of the Reekin Havoc podcast. I'm Tim Lambert. This week we're going to hear from our very first conversation with the captain, a then still engaged Dom Procopio. We've also got a new fan of the week to announce, as well as a couple of reminders to pass along. Keep it here as the Reekin Havoc podcast continues.
The Reekin Havoc podcast.
There's always something fresh pouring at Das Stall Beer House in Huntsville. Our taproom's curated draft list spans everything from local favorites to at least 3 authentic German imports at all times. Our bottle shop features a massive collection of over 450 craft beverages, as well as gluten-free and non-alcoholic treats. Check out the coffee house for a fresh breakfast, midday meal, or family dinner. Das Stall Beer House, 7914 South Parkway in Huntsville. Open 7 days a week. Das Stall Beer House, the official away watch party spot for the Huntsville Havoc.
A lot of businesses talk about putting the customer first, but at Boaz Florist, it's really true. The friendly team at Boaz Florist takes the time to understand your needs to ensure a smooth, personalized experience start to finish, from birthdays and anniversaries to weddings or sympathy arrangements. Boaz Florist is family-owned and is passionate about what they do. Call 256-593-7673, visit them online at boazflorist.net, or come see them at 10890 Highway 168. Boaz Florist.
Attention, Havoc Nation. If you think you have what it takes to be our fan of the week, head on over to ReekinHavoc.com and register. We'll announce the winner of a $40 gift card from Das Stall Beer House every week on the Reekin Havoc podcast, and it might as well be you. What are you waiting for? Enter now. Restrictions apply. That's the fan of the week from Das Stall Beer House and the Reekin Havoc podcast.
Let's go in the slot.
We mentioned earlier that this was the very first time we heard from Dom Procopio on the podcast. Laura Pitts sat down with the then Bachelor captain for our June 8th episode from 2023.
So you're in the off season right now. Is there an off season? Do you guys really have an off season, or what does off season look like? Let me ask that question.
Yeah, so it kind of just depends, obviously didn't get the result we were looking for in playoffs. But so when the season ends, we usually hang out in Huntsville for it depends on the guy. Some guys spend a couple days, some guys spend about a week. So I think a week's fair for the amount of time, and then kind of go home wherever you're staying in the summer. So I'm back at home in the Detroit area. And yeah, so guys either start working or they start doing whatever. I don't start working until June 17th, so I've just kind of on a little mini vacation. Just went to Italy for 10 days, and then gonna go see a buddy for the Game 1 Stanley Cup game in Vegas on Saturday, and then go to Orlando for his bachelor party. And then work starts, and then you start training, and it's a long off season, so you got to give yourself some time to enjoy things because the season's so long.
So you said that you start working on the 17th. So what does work look like? It's not hockey work, I'm assuming. It's something.
It is. Yeah. It's, okay. I actually coach like youth players in Motor City Hockey. Nice. Is the company. I work for Rich Mahalik. He's a great dude. And I'm fortunate enough to go coach all summer and make enough money doing that to supplement everything. So it's really like I'm not working at all. So it's awesome.
When you're out there with those kids, like what's the age range that you're coaching?
Anything from like learn to play 4 to 5 to like high schools. So it varies. So it's fun.
So when you see them out there, you're helping them, you're teaching them these things. Do you think about yourself? Like you were that kid out there trying to learn, and how do you kind of like process that? You're instilling some really cool stuff in them that they're taking away.
Yeah, it's definitely full circle a little bit because, it doesn't feel too long ago you were learning to play. But for me, I enjoy kind of giving some insight to younger kids, just simple stuff. I mean, at a younger age, we just want them to have fun and take away some stuff for the season. Once they get older, like middle school, high school, that's where we can really kind of push them and train them. But yeah, it's crazy. It doesn't seem that long ago. Time's kind of flying. So, but yeah, it's really enjoyable when we work with a kid all summer, and then they come back the next summer and they're excited to work with you all summer again because it's their off season too, right? So I always appreciate just good guys, good kids, eager to learn and and enjoying it. So.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, one of the things that we want to make sure that we do on our In the Slot segments, especially with players, is we really want to know what your stories are. There's a lot of hockey players on the Havoc team that, you know, you guys come from really cool backgrounds. You have interesting things that have happened to you that have kind of driven your pathway down here to Huntsville. And so today, tell the Havoc fans about your story. I mean, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What was life like as a kid and things like that?
Yeah, I grew up St. Clair Shores, Michigan, Grosse Pointe, Michigan. They're right next to each other. Suburb about 20 minutes outside of Detroit. Yeah, I mean, I had a really good childhood. I have a younger brother, Giovanni. So it was just me and him growing up, and we were fortunate enough to live in a neighborhood with like a really cool grass cul-de-sac. So from ages like maybe 6, he was 3 years younger, so he'd be like 3 or 4, all the way to like 12, 13. We'd be out every day in the summer, you know, no sitting around playing video games really. We're just out every day playing soccer, baseball, football, road hockey, whatever, really active, bunch of kids in the neighborhood. So that was fun. And then, yeah, I mean, mom and dad always, you know, looked after us. Both of us played hockey at a high level for a long time. So very fortunate financially for the sacrifices, you know, they made and kind of just, you know, propelled me and instilled the hard work ethic in me. Cause, you know, come from a pretty blue collar background, not a lot of wiggle room financially. So never really at a young age was able to take it for granted. So that's maybe why I like school so much. Cause mom was, always made sure I'd have A's to play hockey. So
yeah,
she instilled kind of that accountability and discipline in me at a really young age, and very fortunate for that. But yeah, the childhood was great. Younger brother, grew up playing with him, and, you know, couldn't ask for anything better, really.
So when did hockey become the sport of choice? When was that moment when you're like, we're playing hockey, I'm on the rink, we're not outside playing it, but like you're in it, your uniform, all those things?
Honestly, I mean, it's always the sport for me. It was always like everything revolved around hockey. So like, you know, as I got older, I started playing pretty competitive lacrosse on like middle school and high school age. And it'd always be, you know, you miss a lacrosse game for a hockey practice, right? So, or I played middle school basketball, I'd missed basketball games for a hockey practice. So for me, I always just loved playing it. No matter when. And it was always just kind of the sport for me. And I think I really kind of kicked it into gear about 15, 16 when I realized that this is something I can try and pursue and take it to the farthest end for myself.
And as a 15, 16-year-old with that mindset, what did you have to do internally, personally, you know, mentally to say, hey, there's some things that I have to put to the side if I'm going to pursue this to be really good at it and then really successful in everything?
Yeah, for me, it was, you know, it always had that mentality of hockey kind of was the most important thing, almost to a fault sometimes. But in high school, you know, I was very fortunate to have a very good like social life, good high school experience, then, you know, typical 4-year awesome. But I don't think I made a dance till I think I got to go to prom junior year and senior year and maybe my senior homecoming. And like football games, you know, social events through the high school, I wasn't really too involved with because I'd be in Chicago, Minnesota, playing a tournament in Detroit locally. Did
any of that bother you as a kid, or were you just like in the game? You didn't really think about it?
No, for me, I mean, you know, being in high school and kind of like, you know, kind of having fun with everybody, it kind of gave me a good way to navigate kind of like the do's and don'ts of life. You know, you're always going to have people that in your friend group that, you know, maybe like to party too hard or do things that aren't too good for them all the time. And for me, hockey was always kind of my way out of like, you know, a peer pressure situation or something kind of sticky. And everyone kind of left me alone too, because they knew that I was pursuing something. So I did have good friends in that sense. And, yeah, I mean, it was just hockey was kind of everything. And it was like that at a young age. And I think, you know, mom was big with instilling the importance of like, hey, you know, you can have fun, but if you screw up and do something you're not supposed to, like your hockey's over too, right? So again, like the consequences when you're trying to pursue something like that can be a little more high stakes.
But that sets up a good foundation for you, for anyone really going forward to know that, I put a lot of effort into it. There's a lot of accountability, and now you're on your own, and that accountability seems like it's still sticking. It's still there.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, everything I try and do, I try and, stay accountable to myself. And, it's hard because, none of us are perfect. There's definitely days where you don't want to, maybe work out when you're supposed to in the summer, or maybe you want to have an extra couple beers when you're not supposed to, or something like that, so it's always good to have a little bit of discipline. Not like I'm a Navy SEAL or anything, but.
Well, let's talk about a little bit of the other leagues you played in. So I know you played in college. How was the college experience going from, high school, and then now you're kind of in like the sort of big leagues because you're in the college area of it?
Yeah, for me, college is kind of a rough go hockey wise, to be completely honest. I played junior hockey in Louisiana, and that's where I met my fiance, and loved it, really enjoyed it there. Kind of went out on a high, winning a championship as my last year junior, captain, all the accolades. So got an opportunity to play at UMass Lowell, which is in Hockey East, which is a pretty strong Division I hockey conference. And, I've always been one to go for it. So I went, and you know what? It wasn't for me. I mean, I enjoyed the people. I've some of my best friends there. Like, I'm going to see my buddy this weekend, my roommate for 3 years. I'm his best man. He's one of my best friends, but the hockey aspect, it was tough, not playing a bunch out of the lineup most of the time. And it was kind of a mental battle for 3 years, but at the end of the day, I was able to get a really good education, kind of find my love for kind of like, literature, philosophy, kind of the arts. And I never knew that about myself till I went to school. So, I mean, there's always a silver lining in the hockey part. It's not something to be bitter about. It just is what it is. I mean,
how did you stay encouraged? Because you could have said when you got through with your undergraduate and you got out of that, I'm done playing hockey. This was the bad experience. Let's just go do something different. But you're still playing. So something has kind of like, what brought that back to life for you?
I mean, I've always wanted to play pro hockey. As a kid, even, everyone wants to play in the NHL, and it's always good to have those goals. And I don't think anyone should ever tell you not to. Even at 26, who knows, crazier things have happened. But for me, I just love playing the game so much. Like, even when I wasn't playing in games at school, I'd be on the ice practicing and doing extra and just trying to get better every day. And for me to kind of call it after those 3 years of kind of, some adversity, kind of being injustice to myself, I worked really hard away, by myself, just doing things that no one sees you doing just to get better. And, I didn't want it to end there. I knew that it wasn't going to end like that. I put so much time and effort into just having a chance to play college hockey and pro hockey that I just felt, if I quit then I'd be very bitter and regret it the rest of my life. And then I found Huntsville, and it's been amazing. So.
Well, that was the next thing I wanted to ask it seems like all these roads tend to lead down to Huntsville, Alabama. So how did you end up with the Havoc? How did Huntsville become home for you now?
It's kind of a complicated situation, but I'll try and explain it the best I can. So when I left UMass Lowell, I graduated in 3 years. So in NCAA hockey, now you can transfer one time for free. You don't have to sit out. But before that, you could only transfer for free if your fourth year was your grad school year. So I was planning to do that just to get out of there. It wasn't a good fit for me hockey wise, and it was what it was. So I got done in 3 years. And then my coach from junior hockey, who I have a very good relationship with, was the assistant coach at UAH. So when I left UMass Lowell, he called me and he's like, "Do you want to come to UAH?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." So they worked out the grad school and everything. And that was set, and I was really excited. I was coming to Huntsville either way. And then he called me about a week and a half later, and he was like, "The program went under."
Oh, no.
And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "The program's no longer a thing. I'm looking for a job. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah." So then I was scrambling, kind of freaking out a little bit. And then through my brother's assistant coach in junior hockey, who used to coach at UAH, who lives there now, Gavin Morgan, really, really good dude. I think he's fairly prominent in the Huntsville hockey scene for youth and stuff. I was talking to him, and he knew Glenn. So he's like, "Let me shoot Glenn a text." So he shot Glenn a text, I'm driving home from Louisiana with my family. Glenn calls me. We talk for 40 minutes. And then a week later, I signed in Huntsville. And then I got very fortunate because the university still honored my scholarship that my assistant coach gave me from UAH because the program went under. So I'm very fortunate of UAH for doing that. So essentially, I was going to grad school and then playing for the Havoc. And that's how I ended up there. It was a lot of moving parts. It's a very complicated story. But I'm very thankful it worked out the way it did because, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
What were those first impressions of Coach DiTullio when he called you and y'all had that conversation?
For me, Glenn was very frank and blunt. There's a lot of coaches in any level at any sport that'll promise players a bunch of things to get them to show up places. And Glenn didn't do that. And kind of being a little bit weary from school of just, coaching and all that. With Glenn, he was a straight shooter. He's like, I'm not guaranteeing you anything. I think you could help our team. I want you to come to training camp. Nothing's guaranteed, blah, 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 blah. So for me, I'm a guy who sees that and I'm like, oh crap. Like if I don't make this team, I don't know, I might be done. Right. So that that motivates me to come into camp and try and be the best player I could be, instead of kind of being shying away from that. And, I respect that a lot from Glenn. It's very easy for him to be like, hey, come down, you're going to do this and that. And then I get there and I'm not doing that. And then I'm angry with him. He's always, for my 2 years with Glenn, been upfront, honest, and very personable. So.
And what was it like being under him then as a player? Once you got out of that, you were under him as a player, his leadership, his coaching style, just a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think college hockey and pro hockey are very different in the sense that college is a lot more structured. You're only playing 30 games and your coach and your coaching staff really kind of dictate a lot that you do, just because of the way it's set up. You're on campus and all that. You really don't you have freedom, but you're not playing pro where you see Glenn and Stu for 2-3 hours a day and then you go do whatever you want to do. Right. So for Glenn, I think my 2 years under Glenn, they were awesome because Glenn treated you like a person and a player. So he never really, discounted you if you were not playing well or out of the lineup and kind of just like shunned you. He was always very good with all the guys. He treated you like a professional. So, I think Dar said he knows how to motivate you, right? He gets the best out of you and he understands everyone's personality really well. So if I'm having a bad couple games, he can call me in and kind of be like, what the heck? Like, you got to be a lot better than that. Maybe someone else would be shy away from that. So he knows how to manage everybody and, he's very respectable to his players and he treats you like a pro and, puts the onus on you to be taking care of yourself. So.
You also spent a little bit of time in the ECHL league. Just you got called up for a couple of games, I think. And so I wanted you to reflect on the calling up experience. What is that like when you get called up? You sit on pins and needles to figure out what's next. So you're called up, then you're back. I mean, how does that, especially for those of us who don't quite understand the process, what is that like?
For me, it was a little bit goofy, just because it was my first year in pro. I think I was in Huntsville for like 6-7 weeks. And then I got an opportunity to go to Worcester, but I was also in school in person at UAH. So when they initially called, I told them I can't come. Like I have school and I'm not going to throw away my grad school to go play in the East Coast. It's, just kind of putting the education at the forefront there. And they were really nice and receptive, and they were like, okay, because they wanted me to sign a contract and come up for the year, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, I can't do that. So then they call me back like 3 hours later, and they're like, okay, so we have 5D. We need you for 3 games, and we'll send you back in the week. Can you do a week? And I wanted to try it. I was new to pro hockey. I was like, you know what? This will be great. And my experience in Worcester was great. They were first class to me. Treated me well. I got to play all my games, but my situation's a little different because I knew I was coming back to Huntsville, and I was actually excited to come back to Huntsville.
You had your schooling was waiting. I know what that's like. You've got to be in class.
I miss Glenn and Stu and all the guys, and then so I had an end date, but I've talked to a lot of guys who played in the league, and I'm sure you'll get some more on that have been up, and it's pretty volatile. You never know, right? Especially as a call up. nothing's really guaranteed you, even more so there. So you could be there for 3 weeks. You could be there for one day, and someone gets sent down from the American League to the East Coast League. And next thing you know, you just drove out to Idaho and you're coming back to Huntsville. So it's just kind of the way it works.
Well, is the calling up process something that you guys want to happen? Like obviously everybody wants to make it to the big league, to the top, to the NHL top level. But when you're just getting settled too. So I can only imagine, I've not only been here, I may not even really know my way, nobody really anything going on. Yeah. You get called up. So I'm just curious about, is this like you guys are, some of them want to, or it doesn't really matter if I go, I go. If I don't, I'm still playing hockey.
Yeah, it depends. Everyone's different. Like, you've had guys in Huntsville, like, Nolan, Dar, Ty, even Cy, like, all those guys would have no trouble at the East Coast level, right? But then it kind of comes down to, like, what do you want out of the game? So if you want to go and try and take it to the highest level of pro in the U.S., you can. You can try and go to the East Coast and climb up from there. And you know what? It's going to be a dogfight. I think people who have done it can tell you that you're going to be moving a lot. And you're going to be kind of nomadic. There's not going to be a lot of stability in your life, and kind of part of the course with that route. But other guys enjoy playing hockey. They like their roles in Huntsville, whatever they are, and some have no interest to go up because it's going to be different. If you're a 20 goal scorer and Glenn's playing every shift, and then you go up to an East Coast team, you might be playing 2-3 minutes a night. You might be in and out of the lineup. You don't really know, right?
Yeah. So
it can be a deterrent for some guys. And the longer I feel like guys stay in the league, whatever place, they kind of have a good gig where they're at. You don't see a lot of guys, over 27, 28, really climbing the ladder from the SPHL all the way to the NHL. So I think it's what guys want out of the game. For me, I enjoy playing. I enjoy playing a lot, and I know that I have the opportunity to do that in Huntsville. And I like living there. So for me, I'm not saying I wouldn't take a call up ever again, but it would have to be something almost too good to be true where but there's no guarantees in anything, and even pro hockey. So, it is what it is, but, there's the stability in Huntsville for a lot of guys, and they enjoy that. So.
Well, I was going to kind of transition to that and ask you about that stability in terms of, I asked Rob this question too about this family aspect that comes from being in Huntsville, being not only a part of the team, but with the ownership. There's just like this magic, I feel like, that exists in the Havoc family. And you're laughing and smiling because I feel like I'm hitting on that correctly. Yeah. There's just like this magic that sits there. And I wanted to kind of get your perspective on that, especially you've not been with the group as long as others. So within your 2 years, what have you felt from that or seen in that?
Yeah, that might be why it's so hard for guys to leave.
That's what I was wondering about. Yeah,
no, it's a good thing, right? Like it starts with the ownership with Keith and Becky Jeffries. They're great to us. They provide us with everything we need and more. They're always looking out for the players and the staff, and doing nice things for us they don't have to do, like buying us dinner on the road and all these kind of things. And they're very active within the organization too. So, I probably see Becky, once a week, and it's kind of like she always says she's my Huntsville mom, but she's right. It's a very family aspect, and then the staff and everyone. It's just honestly, I think it stems from good people, and they're good at what they do. But there's not a bad person in the organization. Everyone's a good person. So it just becomes a lot easier to get along with everybody. And there's so many people in our organization, from the office staff to the ownership to the coaches to the players, that, they give you their shit off their back. If you're in a bind, you can call them. It's much more than kind of like what people would imagine like a work relationship is, within the players in the locker room. It's very fraternal. It's kind of, for lack of a better term, it's like a drug, right? When you're around the guys all the time, and that's what guys I think miss the most when they retire too. So everything's good. Starts with good people, and they've done a great job at doing that. So.
And we have you coming back next season. And so I'm curious about your thoughts on the new season with Stu and Ty. They're taking over coaching. You've already, kind of been under Stu in some sort of aspect, and Tyler's been a teammate. But what do you already anticipate or know you're kind of going to see from them? And how do you think that's going to, what's going to change or maybe stay the same or even grow to become better?
Yeah, I think it'll be good. Obviously going to miss Glenn. I only got him for 2 years, but, I feel very fortunate to be a part of his last year coaching. And like I said, it didn't end the way we wanted it to, but my 2 years with Glenn were awesome. And Stu handles the D usually. So I've got to know Stu really well and we have a really good relationship. So I think with Stu, I haven't really talked to him too much, but he might have a different direction. Maybe he wants the team to go, as in style of play and things. I think the one thing that Glenn has done is instilled an amazing culture within the organization, especially the players, and a set of expectations for a Havoc player are a little bit higher, I'd say, than other places around the league. And it's not a knock at anybody. It's just kind of what we do in-house. So that's, a testament to Glenn and his coaching career. And I think Stu's got that foundation to build on, and hopefully we get some returners to come back, some guys who've been around a couple of years to guide the younger guys. And, I think it'd be pretty naive and ignorant to say that there's not going to be some learning curves for everybody. Mm-hmm. Stu's stepping into a new role, and I think he's really, really well equipped for it. It's just new, right? Ty's going from coaching to playing to coaching, right? It's new. So I think we're going to have to lean on each other a bit. Ty and Stu might lean on like the older guys. We might lean on them a bit just to kind of get through it, but it's not going to be bad. It's just going to be different. Right. And I can't anticipate it being really different, but Stu's his own person. He's got his own philosophies on things, and Ty as well. So I'm just excited to be with them as they kind of take over and transition into a new role for them. It's exciting for me as a player because, I get to help them and they get to help me. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the next thing I wanted to kind of transition to is we want to remember that our fan base is constantly growing and not everyone understands hockey, especially I think about everybody in Alabama. We don't really play hockey a lot. We don't have hockey in our high schools. The University of Alabama has a hockey team, and I know Auburn does too, but they don't even have a hockey rink, on campus in Tuscaloosa. They're in Pelham playing for their games. And so we try to have the players, when they come on, explain rules to us. And so or positions. And so this week I wanted you to kind of explain to the listeners, especially new ones that may not understand the game. You are a defenseman. That is what your position is. So explain what is that? How do you train for that? When you decided that you wanted to start playing ice hockey, is that what you chose? Is that what a coach stuck you in? I think about we all send our kids out to play peewee football, and this is what you get stuck with, even, you know what I'm saying? So tell us about that. Tell us about what it means to play that position, and help us understand it.
Yeah. So for me, I wanted to be a goalie when I was younger. So I remember my mom bought me like goalie pads from the sports store. And then I went out to like the rec hockey for like the little guys when you're 5. And the manager of the team, her son was the goalie. So they were like, why don't you play D? It's the next best thing. So I was a D that year. I was number 1 because I wanted to be a goalie. So I picked number 1. So, and that's where it started. Never played goalie after that. Stuck with D for the last, 21 years. So, but yeah, I mean, the game's changed a lot for the position, or the game and the position have changed a lot. Like, when I was growing up, a lot of the defenseman's job, essentially, right? Don't let the other team score. You're not going to be producing a lot of offense. It's kind of your job to not let the other team score, right? So you're going to be in the defensive zone. That's kind of your bread and butter. Offensive zone is what it is. If you can contribute, sweet. But as I got older, probably by like 2010 to 2015, the position changed pretty drastically, where now there's a lot of defensemen that are like fourth forwards, right? Offensively, they join the rush. They're always in the offensive zone. They're creating offense. Me, I'm a little archaic in the sense that personally, I've always kind of been a stay-at-home defenseman, so I take a lot of pride in playing defense really well. And if I can contribute offensively with goals or assists, it's awesome. But my main focus is like penalty kill, not letting the other team score, blocking shots and playing physical, and just letting whoever the top line on the other team is that night know that, like, trying to make their night a living hell, right? You make it hard for them to score. So that's what I do. But there's guys, like for the fans that have watched Nolan Kaiser play, he did it both, right? He could score and he was really good defensively. And there's guys that are really good offensively that aren't that good defensively, but they're defensemen. So the positions really kind of evolved. But the main point is, if you're a defenseman, you roll out in pairs. So each team usually dresses 6 a night. So you have 3 pairs. You play, and your job's, for all intents and purposes, not to let the other team score. Now, the more fans watch and the more people watch, you'll find out really quick who's offensively inclined on defense, who's maybe more defensive, and who's good both ways. So it's kind of just player preference. But for me, like, I really focus in on playing physical, playing tough, blocking shots, not letting the other team score, shutting down the top lines, trying to do that. And I've made a career out of it so far. So,
and skating backwards too. You got to really be able to do that. That was somebody wanted me to ask about how hard is it to really learn how to be really good at skating backwards and all of that.
Yeah, hockey's one of those sports where it's crazy because it's like if you're 6 or 7 and you decide, like, I'm going to play hockey, it's not too late, but by like 12 to really, like, it's pretty late. Like, hockey's one of those sports that, like, when motor skills are developing in kids, it's the time to get them in, because I've seen, like, my friends are in their 20s a couple of years ago trying to learn how to skate, and they've done it like 15, 20 times, and they still can't really do it, right? So for, like, when you start young, I started at 2, like, it's second nature, right? But I mean, it's just, I would say for me, like, from like 3 or 4 to like 10 to 11 is when I, like, 7 years of really working on skating and backward skating, I finally became comfortable doing it. So you don't realize the amount of work that goes into it when you're a kid, but looking back, you're like, that's 7 years, right? Like, I don't know many people that really do 7 years worth of stuff for something like skating backwards. So,
well, we're going to transition a little bit away from hockey and talk about a couple of other things that I think is really cool and just really awesome about you. And while you have a growing and really impressive hockey career, you've also got this really impressive educational background. And so I really wanted to dive into that with you because I understand the level of commitment that comes from the education stuff. I have an undergraduate degree, 2 masters, working on a PhD. So I get the whole process that you have put in and the time you've put in. So it seems like having this education is very important to you in general, especially with you saying that, you could have easily told UAH, I don't want to do this. I'm playing Havoc now. You could have easily dropped out, but you didn't. So tell us a little bit about why this education aspect has been very important to you.
Yeah, I mean, so I went into school, UMass Lowell, studying business. In my first semester, I realized it just wasn't for me. I'm not a very like black and white kind of objective guy. I'm very subjective, open to interpretation. And then I took a philosophy and film class. It's kind of a blow off, like, oh, well, I fell in love with philosophy as a discipline. And then, took Italian class, fell in love with learning the language, about the culture. Obviously, like my family's comes from over there, so it's cool to learn that. And then political science as a minor just kind of happened. Took enough classes and I enjoyed it too. But I mean, for me, it's always been about kind of like the pursuit of knowledge is fun for me. Like I enjoy learning anything really, as much as I do like learning something new in hockey. It's just trying to be the best version of myself. And then, like, I'm a big believer in go to school and find what you like and really hone in on that. So I stuck with philosophy. I can't say mom was too happy I made the switch from business to philosophy, but yeah, I enjoyed it too much to not pursue it as an undergrad. And then my master's, I figured UAH didn't have philosophy, so I figured English and lit theory would be about as closest to philosophy as you can. So I went into an English MA with only creative writing class or college writing classes.
Oh, lovely! I bet that was there a shocker at that moment when you got like an assignment or something?
Honestly, it took me like by the first midterm of my first semester to realize like, okay, like this is what's going on. Like it's not like this, it's like this, right? So
yeah.
But I made that transition well, and I fell in love with English too because, you know, I wasn't a big reader. Like everyone's talking about the novels they read in class. And I'm like, I've read like 5 books in the last 5 years. Crap. But, you know, for me, it's just all about learning, right? So when you actually learn to apply things and theories and ideas to novels and other things and writing, and like writing poems and short stories and fun stuff, it's just fun. So I really studied things that I've enjoyed, and credit to UAH and the professors there for my last year, giving me a lot of freedom to pursue Italian American literature, something I was interested in. It's not a rigid program, right? It's very flexible. So I got to study that. And, you know, when you're passionate about something like that, it's a lot easier to invest a lot of time and effort into it than kind of writing, you know, a book report or something like that. So.
Hey, they will tell you when you get to the dissertation process of your PhD, work on what you're interested in. Okay.
Yeah.
So that whole concept stays very well true. And I laugh too, you saying that you got a poli-sci minor because you had enough credits. I was the same way. I had enough to get a creative writing minor. And I thought, you know, I need one more. And funny thing, I am one class away from a minor in Italian. The class was offered in Italy, and it was just not something that I could go take. Yeah. So I understand, like, being on the edge of something like, oh, sure, let's just add that to the pile of everything.
Yeah, it looks good, right?
No, let's just keep adding it. What's the deal with it? But so I'm interested too with your ability to like balance all of this, because I know for a fact for myself, there have been countless times in the last couple of years when we are in the Von Braun watching a Havoc hockey game. Okay. We're in the middle of like, y'all were fighting on the rink. And I am literally watching you guys do your thing. And I'm also studying for my PhD work. So like, it's not uncommon for me to like bring that stuff into the Von Braun and like study and watch hockey. I understand how I've had to balance this, but I'm not out there playing. I'm not out there having to work out, condition, do all those things that you guys. So how did you balance? And I know what goes into getting a master's degree. There's a lot of, it's not like undergrad. You've got to be a little bit more responsible, a little bit more catch up on things. So how did you balance playing hockey at kind of a professional level now, with what was expected, and then also doing this coursework?
Yeah, I think it kind of circles back to that kind of just discipline that like my mom really instilled in me as a young guy. Just because, I mean, the nice thing about pro hockey is, you know, you're at the rink for 3-4 hours a day, and then the day's yours. So, well, a lot of guys will go golfing, or, you know, they're watching movies and hang out, and I had to do a lot of homework, which is fine. I found a good balance of staying on top of things all the time. I get pretty anxious when I know I have to do something and I know I'm not going to have enough time to do it. So I always try and stay prepared that way. But yeah, I was honestly at a certain point though, I started going to Gold Sprint, the coffee shop in Huntsville. Awesome place. Check it out. Not an ad, just one of my favorite places. I would just go there because I would get away, because you live with roommates, and, you know, if they're watching a movie and you're writing a paper, you're like, I kind of want to watch the movie, you know?
You cannot do it with someone like that. You can't. You just absolutely have to get away. I get that. I totally get it.
I probably spent about as much time at Gold Sprint in the last year and a half than I have at the VBC. So, but, you know, it's just doing it, right? I always say, like, you know, the hardest part is just doing it. Right, getting yourself to do it, and then after that, it's not too hard. So, but again, like I missed out on, I think I've golfed 4 times in my 2 years in Huntsville because I'm doing school. You know, I've missed out on like movies at the theaters and stuff, but no one holds it against me. You know, they teammates and stuff, they get it. They're awesome about it. And, you know, I just knew that it's important to get done and important to do it well. You know, my mom always said also, don't do anything half-assed. So if you're going to do it. So yeah, a lot of time balancing and figuring things out. And, funny little stories. Like one time I was doing an assignment and couldn't figure out Microsoft Excel. I'm not a Microsoft Excel person. Like, it's just not my jam. So all the guys are out Sunday. So they're at the bar having a couple of drinks, watching football, like whatever. And I'm like, God. And so Alex Kilchewski had recently just got his master's in like counterterrorism. Kid's brilliant. So I'm like, Killer, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm like having a couple of drinks. We're all watching football. I'm like, do you know Excel? He's like, yeah, I know Excel like the back of my hand. I'm like, all right. So me and my fiance, we get in the car and we drive to the bar and have my laptop out, and the guys are watching football, screaming at the TV, and Killer's helping me with my Excel in the middle of the bar. So I know what you mean when you're studying at the VBC, because it's like, well, I guess I'm here now. So I'm having like a drink and then a beer. I'm doing my homework with Killer. So, so like that, you know, guys are great. So they help out when they can. A lot of them look at it and go, I don't know what the heck you're talking about with this stuff.
We'll be back with more of the Reekin Havoc podcast. If you'd like to find the way to a healthier, more flexible you, look no further than Stretch Zone, practitioner-assisted stretching to help you achieve your wellness goals. The Stretch Zone method will help you gently and gradually increase your active range of motion with an approach tailored specifically to your needs. From basic back stretching exercises to sciatic nerve stretches, give them a try with a free 30-minute session. Stretch Zone, locations in Athens, Madison, Huntsville, Decatur, and Rogersville. Visit them on Facebook or online at stretchzone.com.
One of the worst feelings you can have is that of being stranded. Well, BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair makes that a thing of the past, with 24/7 towing services and roadside assistance in the northern Alabama and southern Tennessee areas. But that's not all. They also offer truck and trailer repair, mobile welding, brake service and repair, new and used tires, and other major and minor repairs. Their name says it all. BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair. For 24/7 response, call 497-8234. That's 497-8234. BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair.
My name is Joel, and I came to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in December of 1987 to be treated for osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. We didn't know anything about St. Jude. We didn't know what they meant, or that, you know, when we got here, what we would do, how it would be taken care of. And when we arrived, we found out that my family wasn't going to have to pay for any of my treatment, not for my medicine, not for travel, not for housing, not for food. St. Jude was going to cover all that. St. Jude supported me in every way, from, you know, taking that financial burden off my parents to making sure that all of my family was included in this time. St. Jude literally means everything to me. I get to go home to my family tonight. I get to cook dinner for them. That's what you're giving. You are giving us everything by supporting St. Jude. So thank you so much.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Let's talk a little bit, too, about when you get a master's degree, you can kind of go a thesis route, a couple different things. And for what people may not realize is that's not just like taking an exam. That's like a big project that you have to undertake. A lot of stuff that goes into it. You have to defend those things. You have to talk about it. Tell us about I'm interested to know about your project. No, other people may not be, but I'm interested to know because you have to put a lot of time into it to craft it to get that degree. It's not like you just take a test and you're done. So tell about what you did for your kind of culminating thing with your master's degree, because it's really impressive in general.
So I didn't do the thesis option only because of the hockey. I wouldn't have enough time to set up.
I do not blame you one bit on that.
So I went the capstone route. So the capstone route is just a semester of studying and writing. But I was very fortunate because it acted like a thesis in the sense that I did an independent study with one of my professors, Dr. Conway. Shout out Dr. Conway. We did Italian American literature, something new to him, new to me. Read like 8 or 9 novels. We'd meet at the coffee shop, talk about them. so I had this idea for this big paper, and he was like, read the first draft. He's like, you have 3 weeks and you're trying to write 70 pages. Like, why don't we trim it down to like 25? He goes, and then write the second half for your capstone. I was like, perfect. So essentially what I did was I looked at popular culture, Italian-American identity. So like popular culture, like movies, literature, even, just everything you see in the public eye. And I looked at Italian-American identity, and I tried to trace almost like a genealogy of the evolution of Italian-American identity as the immigrant from the great migration wave of the 1880s to like the 1930s. Mm-hmm. As those immigrants die, what does Italian-American identity become? Because if you look at exclusively popular culture, you have the mafia trope, you have a lot of these tropes. But they're influential, but they're not accurate, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I kind of argue that there's kind of like a cultural mimesis of Italian Americanisms where I might be the third generation, fourth generation Italian American. You have no access to the immigrant. Mm-hmm. So what does my Italian American look like? Well, I argue that for me and people my age or a bit older, it's kind of The Sopranos, right? Right? You watch The Sopranos and you're like, you identify right away. Yeah. And you're like, oh my goodness, like this is, I identify, it's on the big screen, it's popular, it's cool again, right? Mm-hmm. But then I looked at, for kids growing up, there's a lot of these Italian American TikTok stars. So those people become influential because The Sopranos become what I argue is a second generation, The Godfather. Like I can watch The Godfather and enjoy it, but I can't identify. But if your parents are from Italy,
my dad is not that he would be considered like a second or third generation, but his immediate like grandparents, like Big Mama and Big Daddy were from that era and so he can watch those and be like, yeah, that's how things used to be. And I don't understand any of that because that's not what my Italian experience is.
Yeah. So I just think it's interesting to map out the genealogy of what it means to be Italian American and not that there's an objective meaning, but kind of pointing out the influences. And you look at these TikTok stars now and they kind of use the, the grandiose Italian caricature and from incorporate things from The Sopranos, right? These things all operate together, right? They can't elude the history of it. So in a nutshell, that's what I wrote on. And it was really, really enjoyable for me. And I was really interested in it. And I don't think I gave myself enough time to work it out. I feel like that might be a potential for a book one day, but it's a lot of research, right? So
yes, but hey, there's always room for that next project. Don't ever forget that. So, and so what's interesting, Alabama has a really interesting Italian heritage, especially in the Birmingham, Inslee area. So don't discredit anything that you might one day, if you ever write a book, I say go for it and do it one day in your life. You never know what you'll find. So that also brings me to ask this question too. You have Italian background, obviously. This has this interest in Italian culture and the language must stem from you Italian to some extent. So talk about that. Was it fluent in your life? Did any of your parents speak that? Grandparents? I mean, how does this whole Italian aspect connect with this too?
Yeah. So what really got me interested was, so my dad's family, my dad's, I guess, technically a first generation American. So I never got to meet his parents. His dad died when he was like 7 or 8, or maybe even younger, I think 4. And then his mom, my grandmother, passed away the year before I was born. Right. Mm-hmm. So I grew up without knowing it, right, in a very Italian-esque kind of way, like, Italian masses, San Francesco's church, right? Knowing everybody, everyone's your uncle, all the good stuff, the familial aspects, the really nice, just kind of.
And we're all loud. We're all loud.
Yes,
Did you ever go to a family event but it wasn't loud? We're all loud.
Yes. So that was awesome. But I always heard stories and kind of just felt like there was some kind of lackingness to the, ability to connect, like. And it's very subjective in my personal experience, but it's kind of what got me thinking about, I understand like the ethnic identity construction, but I don't have anyone to teach me. I don't have a no-no or no-no to be like, hey, this,
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, he grew up in the 80s as a first generation American in an Italian household, right? Like back then, it's not cool to be fluent in Italian. You don't want to learn Italian. You want to be American, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in those times, 70s and 80s, right? That was a big problem for a lot of immigrant families. And it happens today with every immigrant generation, right? The Americanization, the assimilation. So he really didn't retain any, culturally, but linguistically, language and stuff, a couple words in dialect. And so I went to school. I really wanted to make it a point to really try and learn the language the best I could in my 3 years and learn about the culture and kind of apply it to maybe some of the things that, I didn't get to experience and kind of just see what that did. And it was awesome. Like I just went to Italy and I used to be pretty close to fluent during school. But being in Huntsville, there's not many people that are fluent in Italian. So I didn't really get to speak with anybody too much. And it is what it is. So when I went to Italy, I was able to speak a little bit and just kind of enjoy it and maybe not be as touristy because obviously you're still a tourist, but just kind of connect on a different level. And it worked. I got a free souffle, free drinks a couple times. So
there you go.
If you ever go to Italy, Duolingo the crap out of it and try and formulate a couple sentences and the wait staff will usually take care of you.
I took Italian when I was in college. I took some of it and I can read Italian better than I can speak the language.
Yeah, me too. I actually have an Italian American newspaper. I was reading today in Italian. I'm like, I get like 95% of this, right?
We can read it, but when I have to sit there and have a conversation, and the other thing too is the different regions within Italy has different dialect, everything is so different. If you're down in Sicily, it's a whole different way of saying stuff than if you're in a different part. So, for me, that even when I've taken French too, and even being in France, it was still difficult. I could still read French better than I could communicate. And I don't know if that's something that we deal with as we're trying to learn a language later in life.
Yeah. And also it's also like you get there and you don't think about how fast we speak. And then you get over there and someone says something to you and you're like, what? Because it's so fast and dialect and it's crazy because you don't if you're stuck in your American bubble, like my fiance's from Shreveport, Louisiana, so I always give her crap when she says like oil instead of oil or cement, right? Right. She makes fun of me how I say bagel, like I have a long A, and so when you think about it in English, you're like, oh, but then it's the same thing over there. So when you're learning like a standard language and then you go apply it, it can be a crapshoot.
Yeah, it's definitely an experience. You also mentioned to me that you recently had a poem published in the Voices of Italian Americana. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
So tell us about publishing a poem. Was it based off some of your stuff you did in school, or is this just a hobby thing that you decided to do?
Yeah, so I took a poetry writing class as part of my master's and kind of just fell into my schedule. I wasn't really super keen on poetry, but I was like, why not? I'm open-minded, want to try it.
Yeah, so, I'm not. I get poetry. I understand what you mean by that. So, yeah.
So I took the class and we just essentially wrote a bunch of poems, and I wrote this poem called Nona's Kitchen, and it was essentially about kind of the dilemma I described of not being able to connect with that side of like the lost heritage, the lost culture, and all that. And I wrote it in an Italian sonnet to be quite fitting, right? And then I wrote it for class, and that was my first semester, so that would have been fall of 2021, and then sat on it. And then during the summer last year, I was visiting my fiance at her apartment in Baton Rouge and had a bunch of free time. So I pulled up my laptop and I looked it over and revised it for about 10 minutes and revised it again one more time. And then I just applied to like 6 different publishers because I was like, this is my best poem I think I've written. Like, I'm going to try and get this published. I didn't expect it to, so I went to like smaller journals, and then I was like, well, this is Italian American poem, so may as well try. And I got an email like, I think it was March. I'm just leaving the coffee shop, and it's like, your poem's been published. And I like forgot. I'm like, what poem? And I look, and Yeah. So I got published in Voices Italian Americana, which is like a smaller academic journal in Italian American stuff. And, get a free electronic copy of the journal as payment. So I'll take it.
Yeah.
It's not a very lucrative profession, but
it's hard to get published. That's what a lot of people don't realize, especially in an academic setting. It takes a while to get this. So you sending it out to multiple people does not, that's part of the process. But that's really, really cool. Can we read it somewhere, or do we have to have access to the journal? Is that kind of how that goes?
I could maybe, I don't know how it works actually, because they might have the rights to the poem.
Yeah, they might. Well, we all know it's there, and we're proud of you for doing that and taking a chance on it. And so I'll leave this to the last question about, I guess, your education. What are you going to do with all of this? Like, at the end of the day, what is your plan now that you have this under your belt?
Yeah, so I'm in a dilemma a little bit because I love playing hockey, and the Havoc is unbelievable, and it's minor pro, so none of us are getting rich doing it, but we love it and it's awesome. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, but there'll be a point when hockey's done. I really think that for me, I'm not a very big like corporate person or business. That's really not my jam. I love being in hockey and I love learning. So, if I decide to stay in hockey after I'm playing, maybe it'd be coaching or whatever. But if I get an opportunity, I really would be interested in PhD in English, Italian American focus, trying to make that kind of the bread and butter. But
and then you would end up teaching. Then you'd be a teacher. Yeah. That would be the end goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would be a good college professor. I personally, like my fiance, trying to get an elementary education. She's a saint. For me, I don't even think I could do high school because it's just, I don't think I could handle it. Those teachers I've had patience of steel, and I respect them so much, but I don't think I could do it. So I think the university setting teaching would probably be my best bet. But yeah, PhD and try and get in, teaching English or coaching, but I like helping people and teaching. So,
well, if you ever decide to go your PhD route, when you're in the middle of it, let me know. We will share war stories. We will talk about the process, and we will cry our tears over some of it. So I totally will tell you that. So then we're going to transition a little bit. You told me also that you recently got engaged. And so I thought I would ask you about that. I am a sucker for a good engagement story. And so I want to know all about it since you brought it up. Tell us how this all happened. How did you know she was the one? All these things now, since you are really off the market, so to speak.
Yeah. So I've been with Grace for 5.5 years. I met her playing junior hockey in Shreveport, Louisiana. And then we did long distance for about 4 years. And then this past year, she moved in with me in Huntsville, and it was great. So, I bought the ring last summer and I sat on it for a while. And then, it really just coincidentally happened that, family was able to get everything together to go to Italy. And,
so you proposed in Italy?
Yeah. So.
That's even better.
Yeah. So she's a good Catholic. I'm okay. I'm an okay Catholic. She likes to frequent more than me, but she makes me a better person because I go to church with her and stuff when I have time to. So it was really special. We were at the Vatican, and that's a pretty sentimental place for anybody, but especially her. It held a lot of weight. And so at the steps of St. Peter's Basilica, I popped the question, and it was awesome. So it was very storybook. That's something that she really wanted to be proposed to there. I kind of caught the hint, and then I think she saw it coming. I tried to keep it a surprise, but right at Vatican City on the steps of St. Peter's. So
you totally knocked the engagement out of the park with that one. I am curious, how do you sit on a ring for almost a year and she didn't find it, you hit it, you didn't lose it? I think about that.
No, so I kept it. Right when I moved back to Huntsville, I kept it at home with my mom in Detroit.
Perfect. That's even better.
So then when we were leaving for Italy, I put it in my carry-on bag. Thank God, because I lost my check bag. I don't know where my check bag is. I think it's in Frankfurt right now. I'm trying to get that. But if it was in there, I'd be in a lot of trouble. So I carried it on. I was going to put it in there. My mom's like, "Do you have the ring with you?" I'm like, "Well, it's in the check bag. You should hold on to it." So I was like, "Okay."
Mom was really smart with that one.
Oh, yeah, because that would have been disastrous for everybody.
Yes. Well, in Alabama, we have unclaimed baggage in Scottsboro.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
Where I live.
I love it.
Yeah, so I live up in that area in Scottsboro, and so you never know if your bag may end up in the land of lost luggage, and we may hang the stuff out of it one day.
Grace was joking. Because I bought some stuff for the trip at unclaimed baggage. She's like, "You're gonna have to go back to unclaimed baggage and buy the stuff you just bought." I'm like, "I know, this is ridiculous."
That is too funny. Okay, well, we're gonna transition now into some fan questions.
Okay.
We kind of wrap this up. We always allow fans to send in, call in, share some of their questions for each player that we bring on. And so we had a fan that wanted to know, what are your hobbies outside of hockey? When you're not playing hockey, you're obviously not golfing yet. You're not doing some of this stuff, but what do you enjoy doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big, I like to cook. So if I have time, if the homework's light or whatever, I like to cook whatever. Sometimes just experiment, make new dishes. My go-to is usually like baked ziti, or I'd make a pretty good meatball. So I know, right? Shocker, but I like to cook. I like movies and reading too. I like a lot of that stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty easygoing though. I don't really have anything like other than like hockey on the forefront. I mean, school took up a big chunk of time, so
now you have all this time.
Yeah, so I guess I'd say just reading and kind of like learning that way, and watching, like, I like documentaries and like history stuff too. So that kind of stuff.
Do you have any pregame rituals, any superstitions, like you wear the same socks or you do a certain warm-up routine? Somebody wants to know, what are your pregame rituals, like that kind of thing?
Pregame, yeah. I mean, I always do the same thing. I always tape my stick on the bench, and then I go stretch and roll out, and then we have a team meeting, and then I play soccer, like 2-touch soccer with everybody, and I do a dynamic warm-up. And then I kind of chill for like 15 minutes, kind of get my mind right. And then at about 12 minutes before warm-ups, I start putting on my gear. So I just get right into it. So I've learned that for me to have a good routine like that, sometimes you're not able to with time and travel, but having that routine and then just getting right into warm-ups and into the game instead of overthinking and stuff is that works for me. So.
Hey, another fan wanted to know, can you recall a memorable hockey fight that you were a part of when you were fighting? Because you don't fight on the you don't do any of that, right?
No, never.
No, never.
No. I actually wasn't even in Huntsville, but I had one in junior in Shreveport where it ended up being like a 5-on-5 brawl, and the goalies were going at it. It was pretty crazy. But for Huntsville, I think my favorite fight in Huntsville was probably against Pensacola. I mean, we ended up not winning, but we were kind of flat. And Malik Johnson in Pensacola, I asked him to fight. He said, "Yeah, I think I got the better of him, in my opinion." And I usually don't fire the bench up, but I tried to get the guys going, and they responded pretty well. I think we lost in like overtime or something, but we came back from like a 3-goal lead. So I was like, hey, like it works, right? So it was good.
When you're in the middle of a fight out there, I mean, what are you thinking about? Are you just trying to figure out not to fall? What's going on? What's going on through your head in that process?
I mean, you can ask anybody who's done it. Like, you're always gonna be a little anxious, right? You're literally engaging in hand-to-hand combat on ice skates, but for me, it's just trying to stay calm, right? Like, I feel like when I get really, really mad, it's actually a little more dangerous because I might not be really thinking about what's going on or what they're doing. So be calm, and like you're gonna get punched in the face in a fight. So if you don't like getting punched in the face or you can't take it, like, you probably shouldn't be fighting. So
well, if it matters, I've saved the questions about fighting and penalties for that. Trying to figure out which Havoc player is the most prone to fight, to ask those questions.
Oh, it's probably me, I would say.
You think so? So
I would say. I think not to be like arrogant, but or not arrogant, but just I think I had like I love the team this year, and I think last year too. It's not that I love it; it's just. I'm a big guy. I'm physical. Guys they get mad, and then the next thing you know, it's like, okay, if no one else is going to do it, I'll do it. I don't really care. So, yeah.
Injuries. You gotten injured really bad from a fight?
Knock on wood. My first ever one in junior, I fought a guy who was way older, way more experienced, and he made my nose blow up. So other than that, I've been pretty okay. But I mean, you get hit in the face, you get hit hard. As long as you don't get knocked out, that's kind of. You don't want to be embarrassed, right? Guys, right. You have an ego, right? You don't want to be embarrassed in front of anybody. So, especially now, if you are the one doing the majority of the fighting, you definitely have to carry that weight. So, yeah, I get that. Yeah, it could be pretty heavy on the anxiety front sometimes, but no one in our team and our organization is there to fight, right? We're all there to play hockey. It's just kind of a byproduct of it.
The fighting's just a part of it. I mean, my little one will sit up there and he's like, oh, they're going to fight. They're going to fight. The refs will break it up and he's so disappointed. And I'm like, I don't know if we'll get a fight tonight, buddy. Depends on who we're playing.
That's the thing, the people like that, right?
Yeah, it definitely is and it's funny that we say that because when I will tell it people, I really like my family, we love hockey. We like our Alabama football. Don't get us wrong down here, but we really like watching hockey. And they'll say, oh, you must just go for the fighting. That's the first thing people talk about is, oh, you fight in hockey. You can't fight in other sports. And I'm like, I mean, that's a part of it, but you're not guaranteed. And, except in my opinion, if we play Birmingham, there's always going to be a fight. I always anticipate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We don't like them very much and for good reason. So.
I'll send 2 more questions before we wrap this up. The last one was, what do you say to young kids watching you guys play who hope to be in your position one day?
Yeah, I just think for younger kids at any age, really, I mean, it just starts with having like a clear idea or I guess a goal of what you want to get out of the sport, right? So there's never going to be a direct path for anybody to anywhere. But if you're a younger guy or a younger girl just out there trying to make it in hockey, it's going to take a lot of dedication, discipline. You're going to have to miss out on a lot of things, travel a bunch, and it can be stressful for the kids and the parents, right? Financially, it can be a lot. But at the end of the day, if you are committed to trying to make it and you really can look in the mirror every day saying, as you get older, that I'm really doing everything I can to be the best version of myself. If you should be able to live with that, whatever what's the old cliche, shoot for the moon, land on the stars, right? You want to play in the NHL and everyone does, but as you get older, it gets harder and there's politics and everything. It's just like life, right? So you just got to keep going, control your attitude, have a good attitude, and be grateful for it because, there's a time where you can't play anymore. So it comes quicker for some people and some people try and hold on to it for a long time, but it's just the reality of it. So,
yeah. And then lastly, what should we be listening to? What artists are you listening to music-wise? What do you think we should be listening to right now? And what TV show or movie do you think we need to go binge and watch?
So movies, I haven't seen either of these, but they're on my list. I'm a big comedy fan too. I like comedy. So there's a movie called The Machine by this comic Bert Kreischer.
It's amazing. I've seen it.
Okay. So me and Grace want to go see that. And then I also like Sebastian Maniscalco, who's a comic, and he's got one, I think it's with De Niro, called About My Father. So those are on the queue for me. TV, honestly, Grace gets mad at me because I love watching The Sopranos. I've seen it like 4 times and I'll rewatch episodes and she gets so upset because she's just over it. Right. So I love The Sopranos. If you haven't seen The Sopranos, download HBO Max, check it out if you have time. It's hard to binge because it's like 100 hours, but it's good. And then artist, I'm all over the place. Me and my roommates, Robbie Fisher, Sam Hunter, and Jamie Bissau, we got on a really big Toby Keith kick at the end of the year. And my Southern fiance hates country music, so she does not like when I'm blaring Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue taking a shower. But I've been listening to Toby Keith, so if you're ever bored or just need to pick me up, turn on some Toby Keith, because it's just good fun music, right? So
that's wonderful. I love it. And you're going to love the machine. We're literally just pulling out all kinds of commercials in the middle of this discussion.
Yeah, we are.
But you'll like it. It's funny. It's really funny. Yeah, you may get chuckled a couple of times in the middle of it. Well, it has been an absolute joy to just really sit down and chat with you, not only about hockey, but about your life, all of these things. We always enjoy watching you play. You really put a lot of heart into the game. You're definitely one of the fan favorites, and so we just really appreciate it. And the Havoc family, we're really proud of your accomplishments. I saw some people talking about, I think Billy Welker had shared a picture of he came to your graduation. Yeah. And so, I was looking at the comments, we're proud of that. That's a big accomplishment. So do not take that lightly by any means at all. But yeah, we're so happy that you came on today to talk with us.
I appreciate you having me on here. And, it's, I love being in Huntsville, the fans, the people, the city. It's just a place, that I really grown attached to, and thankful for everybody, yourself and in the podcast, and all the fans and all the people that just come out and support us and let us to continue do what we do and what we love to do. So it's always fun to share that with everybody.
That was Dominick Procopio with Laura Pitts from June 2023. He and Grace did tie the knot and are looking forward to living happily ever after. Stay with us as the Reekin Havoc podcast continues.
Congratulations to Dakari Pitts Gross, our latest fan of the week. Dakari picks up a $40 gift card from Das Stall Beer House in Huntsville. Go to ReekinHavoc.com and enter your name. You might be our next winner from Das Stall Beer House and the Reekin Havoc podcast.
In June of 2005, our twin girls were delivered, Melissa and Ann Catherine, and they were born 14 weeks early.
Amy and Chris George talk about the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund.
They both weighed less than 2 pounds. Ann Catherine was 115 and Melissa was 1'9". Melissa lived for a couple of hours, but all of the medical technology in the world just could not have saved her, and she passed away while she was in the NICU. Chris realized pretty early that God had given us a platform that we could use to try to help people. So Chris and I started the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund at Huntsville Hospital.
To know that Melissa's name is living on, her legacy continues, and I think that was very important to Amy and I, is why the fund is named after her. Because for 7 weeks, Melissa fought so that Ann Catherine would have a chance to live. And I think that we wouldn't be doing her name any justice.
I'm Austin Alger, and you're listening to the Reekin Havoc podcast.
Youth camp registration is now open. Kids can learn from head coach Stuart Steffen and assistant coach Tyler Piacentini. Cost for 4 days is $400 for skaters and $350 for goalies. 2 sessions will be offered, June 15th through 18th and July 20th through 23rd. Discounted rates will be available to those participating in both sessions, $700 for skaters and $600 for goalies. Go to HuntsvilleHavoc.com and under the Community tab, click on Youth Camp. Various player gear grabs are underway. Pick up jerseys, helmets, sticks, and locker plates. Mystery and team-signed memorabilia are also available. Go online to HuntsvilleHavoc.com and under the Fan Zone tab, click on Dash Auctions. Be aware of current front office summer hours, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m.
Want to hear from some of your favorite current or past Havoc players? Email us at reekinhavoc@outlook.com. That's REEKIN Havoc.com. You can also text us or leave a voicemail at 256-434-RKKN. That's 256-434-7556. Or message us on Facebook or Instagram and let us know.
The Reekin Havoc podcast. For those returning from military service, the transition back to civilian life isn't always easy. Retired Marine Gunnery Sergeant Bill Cook talks about still serving veterans.
The mission of Still Serving Veterans is to serve and honor veterans and their families by empowering them to build meaningful lives. And we do that through connecting to fulfilling careers, getting the benefits they deserve, or the services that they need. We have never charged anybody anything for our services. A group of business leaders in town felt there was a need to help the seriously wounded make that transition back into civilian life. Employment services, VA benefits, and connections to other community services. That's what we do. If you're a veteran and you need help, please get a hold of us. Go to that website, ssv.org, and you can find out pretty much anything you need to know about still serving veterans.
In Huntsville, call 256-883-7035. For tickets, official Huntsville Havoc merchandise, and more, go to huntsvillehavoc.com. Visit our website at reekinhavoc.com. Look for us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads. And listen, follow, and subscribe to the Reekin Havoc podcast on your favorite platform to keep up with the only weekly podcast covering the Huntsville Havoc, the Reekin Havoc podcast.